All right, TSL, let's get it. What are the Goliaths that are in your life? Let me ask you that question. What are the Goliaths that are in your life? And maybe it's that $1 million producer. Maybe it's that perennial all-star player that just seems to have the position on lock if you're an athlete. Or maybe if you're in an industry or business, maybe this granddaddy of them all has been around for so long that you look at the products that they're putting out and you're saying, there's no way, man, I can beat this Goliath. And oftentimes people quit before they ever get started because they look at the Goliath. They look at the athlete. They look at their competition of an individual. They look at a business and they say, there's no way. There's no way I can topple that. But if you are a student at all, if you went to Sunday school class ever in your life, if you happen to just be channel surfing, you know for a fact that Goliath can be beaten. History has shown this. And today, using Patrick Bet David's book, Your Next 5 Moves, great book. I'm going to break down 6 different ways that you can beat the Goliath that's in your life. Now, we'll tell you this. It's not for the faint of heart. The struggle is guaranteed, but success is not. So because you're facing a Goliath, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's not a sure thing. So this is why you got to be prepared. And you've also got to be mentally, physically, and emotionally ready to roll. Because you could be, and probably will be, in an all-out war. But dude, if you're ready for it, let's roll. And there's no reason why you should be ready for it. Now, you have some advantages over a Goliath. Let me tell you this. Number one is your first advantage that Patrick Bet David says is your advantage is the OGs, the old Goliaths, they're so used to dominating and feel like they have such a commanding lead that they feel like there's no way that they can be beaten. I mean, as I was reading his book, I start thinking about MySpace. I started thinking about the taxi cab service, the hotel industry. Taxi cab service was overtaken by Uber. Hotel industry thought they had it on lock. And then Airbnb came about. MySpace slapped down by Facebook. Kodak. They had the lock. They even had the opportunity to get into digital photography, but they couldn't shake the old cash cow of having regular film. And so they ignored it and they said, "No, we're good. We're making too much money on this film that we got to develop. We're going to pass." Gone. Sears. Gone. Kmart. Gone. See, these are all these Goliaths. But there are also Goliaths in your own personal life. That $1 million producer got a lot on their plate. So understand one of the advantages that you have when you're facing a Goliath is they get complacent because they're successful. Another advantage that you have is OGs, old Goliaths, they're not as nimble as you. See, because you're just now getting on the map, because you're just a fresh startup, they can't move like you. Maybe the Goliaths have a board of directors. Maybe they have hundreds of employees. Maybe they have an image to uphold, whatever it is. But see, the advantage for you is you can turn on a dime super quick. And those Goliaths, number one, they're so big, so commanding, they think they don't have to move. But when they decide to move, it's not as easy for them to move. And you got to remember that. But I will tell you, man, even though you have some advantages, you got to respect the OGs. You must. Because if you display an ounce of complacency, those OGs are going to wipe you off the map. So you always got to stay on your edge. You always got to stay pushing. You always got to stay moving. You always, always, always have to be productively paranoid. And so that way, you know, at any fraction of a second, whoosh, you can get wiped off the map. So let's talk about 6 ways quickly that you can topple those OGs in your life. First thing Patrick Bet David says, when you want to take on an OG, an old Goliath, master 3 things that you do better. Master 3 things that you do better. See, the OGs have weaknesses. You have weaknesses too, but the OGs have some weaknesses. So what is the thing that just kind of agitates you? In other words, every time you look at their industry, every time you look at that person, if it's a person that is a Goliath for you, every time you look at that, you're agitated by it. You say, God, if I had what they had, this is what I would do. And so maybe it's a service, you know, maybe it's the quality, or maybe it's synthesizing, right? So maybe you have the ability, if you're a speaker, maybe you have the ability where you could synthesize information super, super quick, and you could bring that information quick on a drop of a dime. That's a quality for me. So I can look at these big guys. I can look at these big podcasts out there. I can move quick. I can read one of these books right behind me. I can take a chapter and I can synthesize the information in a fraction of time and deliver it to you. Boom, with social media. Boom. Living proof. So what are 3 things that you master well? Not everything. Don't be the master of everything. You can't. But what are 3 things? The second thing, if you want to topple an OG, an old Goliath, is become a specialist. See, becoming a specialist is where you find your little gaps. You find the little crevices, and maybe from afar, it looks like there's no weakness for Goliath. When you're facing them, you're like, phew. And get your mind off the money part of it. Oh, they have a bankroll. Oh, they have employees. Oh, they have cameras. Get your mind off of that. If you really study the Goliath, and you're not sitting there with this narrative of how you're beaten, you will never find a way to beat somebody or something or get an advantage over a business if all you're doing is the ongoing narrative is, I can't do it because, well, you'll never see it because your mind is, your subconscious is like, yeah, you're right. Okay, well, just keep feeding me that narrative and I'm going to keep producing what you're saying. They can't be beaten. You're right. You're right. Right. But if you suspend your doubt, if you suspend your belief in thinking they're the perennial player and you study them, you're going to find the little gaps. And based on those 3 things that you master well, then you start sliding in those gaps. Don't be a master of all, man. Be a specialist of just a few things. Number 3, when you're facing the OGs, I like this one. When you're facing a Goliath in your life, when you're small, make yourself appear bigger. When you're small, make yourself appear bigger. See, just because you have a weak hand doesn't mean that you have to play weak. Doesn't at all. You got to play weak. Says who? You don't have to. So many times, I mean, poker players know this, right? So they may have a weak hand, but based on their body language, based on the way they talk, based on their confidence, based on everything that they do, the opposing team, the opposing players, the opposing businesses. They may know something we don't know. So this is why Patrick Bet David says that you have to embody your future self. Embody your future self. Todd Herman in his book talks a lot about this, about the alter ego effect. And so the alter ego for him is he slips on a pair of glasses. They're not even prescription glasses, but when he puts on those glasses, he's a whole different person. It's like Superman with his cape. And so he embodies that superhero that he wants to be, right? And so that's what you have to do. When you're walking and facing, you walk into a room with a Goliath, damn it, put your shoulders back. Pick your chin up. Don't be all shucks. You don't have to be the big boss. You just carry yourself like that. You don't have to lay out all my weaknesses. No, you got some strengths. You have 3 things that you do very well. You are now working to be a specialist. So based on those things, I'm coming. Number 4, the way that you topple an OG, a Goliath in your life. Lay low, move quick. This is important. Move in the shadows, man. Don't announce everything that you're about to do. Damn it, dude, just do it. Don't announce it. Lay low, move quick, be decisive. And the shadows are your favor. The fact that nobody's paying you any mind and you can work on things in plain sight. I can't tell you how many times I've done this in my life. And so people walk up, what are you doing? Just be generic. Just working on some things, man, just trying to get better. And I'm working on beating you right in your face. But I lay low. Number 5, when you want to topple an OG, turn to history. Turn to history. Yes, this means that you have to learn. This means that you have to read. But if you turn to history, right back there are things that are history. Ray Dalio, billionaire with a B, billionaire hedge fund investor, has made billions by turning to history. He is a student of history. And so what he does is, and what you need to do when you're facing a Goliath, don't just look on the other side, look back also. Because when you start studying history, you are going to find patterns. You're going to find techniques and tactics. And so you'll recognize the patterns. Because life turns 360, man. What happened 30 years ago is probably just about to happen. History repeats itself. We hear that all the time. It's true. So when you start studying history based on the industry that you're in and the competition that you're facing, you start seeing, man, this looks a lot like I was reading back in the 1940s. Here comes the pattern. So you recognize the pattern. And then as you become more of a student, you start developing the techniques and the tactics that were forgotten about. And that becomes your advantage. Winston Churchill was one of those who, even when he was weak, he played super strong. He was a freaking bulldog. And if you want to study somebody that's just a complete animal, that's a guy that you need to study right there. Number 6, the final way that you can topple an OG, an old Goliath in your life. Shut up. You don't have to disclose everything, man. Keep your mouth shut. This is so, so important. Sarah Blakely, when she was creating Spanx, she didn't tell anybody what she was doing. Her family, her loved ones, she didn't tell anybody anything. They just said, what are you doing? She was generic. Oh, I don't know, just dabbling. She was working on a game changer, a complete game changer. And so what she was doing is she was just working on it. She shut up. She knew she was taking on an industry. She knew because she'd been laughed out of offices. She was selling fax machines. And so she made it a point to not say anything to anyone. Becoming a specialist, mastering 3 things, finding the weaknesses, working in the shadows. And then she ambushed the industry. Boom. Had no debt. She didn't have any debt. She never took on any debt. A billionaire, debt free. See, that's the difference with resources and resourceful. See, everybody quits because they say, oh, I don't have the resources. I don't have the resources like the big guys, the big industries. I don't have the resources. His daddy's rich, so he gets all the best equipment, so I can't beat him. Bullshit. Of course you can, but you got to study. He's a Goliath. She's a Goliath. They're a Goliath. Study it, and keep your mouth shut the whole time. Just work in plain sight. Because here's the thing, and here's why it's so important to keep your mouth shut. Because there are going to be people that are going to try to talk you out or take you out. And so when you're trying to topple a Goliath, there are people that you're going to reveal your dreams to. And because they gave up on their dreams, they're going to try to talk you out of your dreams. And then there's other people who are going to try to take you out. And those are the ones that when you reveal your dreams, when you reveal that's the one I'm going for, because they're already in a stronger position, they'll take you out. So people will talk you out of your dreams. They'll talk you out or take you out. That's why it's so important. Keep your mouth shut until you're ready to roll. If you take anything away from this episode, you just remember this, that Goliaths, and history shows, a Goliath can be taken out. But realize this, and don't you ever, ever forget this. When you become a Goliath, damn it, you can be beaten too. And never, ever forget that. Thanks so much for tuning in today to The Sales Life. For more resources, you can go to thesaleslife.me. It's right there on the screen. And there you will find thousands of free resources on learning how to develop the number one skill you need in life, which is your ability to sell your way through life using 5 core skills that you already have access to. You just don't ignite them. Communication, curiosity, creativity, continuous learning and action, and productive confrontation. So if you want to have more, do more, be more, that's the way to do it. Say no more. Go right there to the episode. New episode of the podcast coming out tomorrow with my buddy Patrick Tenney, who is on the podcast today. Tuning in. Thank you so much, Patrick. Look forward to tomorrow's episode. Conversation is great, so be sure and tune into that one as well. Be sure and share and subscribe to wherever you get your content, whether it be the podcast, which is top 5% podcast in the world, or go right there to the YouTube channel. That way you don't miss out on a single episode. So with that, remember, the greatest sale that you will ever make is to sell you on you, because you're more than enough. Stay amazing. Stay in the sales life. Let me come back around to say hello to Patrick Tenney. Thanks so much, man, for tuning in today. Look forward to rapping with you this week, man, about the episode as it rolls out as well. So you guys have an amazing day. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the shares. Thanks for the hearts. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Stay amazing. Stay in the sales life.